You're listening to the Go Getter Podcast. I'm your host, Candice Janae. I'm a digital marketing and automation strategist and business coach. I'm the CEO and founder of Epic Fab Girl, where we help Christian women entrepreneurs market and scale their service-based businesses beyond six figures as they grow deeper in their faith. So whether you're a coach, speaker, or a service provider, this podcast will drop gems, bringing you tips, strategies, and stories from experts to help you take your life, business, and relationship with God to the next level. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Go Getter Podcast. I'm your host, Candice Janae, and today we are in for an amazing treat. And y'all probably hear me say that all the time, but I literally love interviewing other women entrepreneurs who are faith-based and also have built their businesses to six figures and beyond. And today is no different. Today, I'm going to share with you guys a little bit more about who our guest speaker is. And she has an incredible business. So I want to get y'all into all of the details. So she's the owner of the creative firm, Her Timeless Brand. Her name is Erica Ortiz. She assists women of faith in refining their brand strategy and visual identity so they may scale with clarity and confidence. This young mother of two toddlers was able to scale her business to six figures in only 10 months. She retired her husband and her mother. She purchased her first home at 25, and she was able to work with over 60 amazing women to help them rebrand their businesses. So welcome to the Go Getter Podcast, Erica. We are so glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and just to be able to pour into your audience today.
Thank you so much. So, tell us a little bit about how did you even get started in business? Tell us what you do, but I love to always hear the journey of getting started.
Mm-hmm. Well, first, my story starts with I wasn't born here. I was born in the Dominican Republic, and I came over here when I was 8 or 9 years old. And that alone was like a whole thing. But I also grew up without my mother and being the only girl. So just imagine that. So that I grew up around a lot of men, people that were business owners. My dad is a business owner. My grandfather was a business owner. And they always had me do their business cards and things like that. I didn't even know that was something I could monetize. And then when I got pregnant with my daughter, I just started having a crisis of I'm scared to leave this girl at a daycare. I'm scared. I don't want to leave her. Maybe because of my trauma from growing up without my mom. And now, years later, that is what the Lord confirmed, but it kickstarted something amazing. And one night I'm breastfeeding her and I was I'm just going to get on YouTube and figure something out. And I learned how to design on YouTube. And that's how it all started. Breastfeeding at 2 a.m. and getting on YouTube. I didn't go to school for design. I went to school for business. I graduated and have a degree in that. But I learned design literally like that. I don't have a crazy story, just breastfeeding at 2 a.m.
Man, I love that story because I think, first of all, your work is incredible. You do amazing work. I think, when it comes to your branding and your visuals, y'all, Erica is top tier, honey. Her stuff looks amazing. And just to hear that she was self-taught, and to hear that, the realness of you being a mom and breastfeeding and learning on YouTube, that is just incredible. That's amazing. But it also just reminds me of how, God gives us so many different talents, and some of us don't even know the talents that we have until we start to explore them. And then even with you saying, even your trauma, because I know that the Bible says that all things work together for the good to them that love God and are called according to his purpose. Just seeing how even your trauma and your response to the trauma, even as a mom, led you to being how can I create a life where I don't have to leave my daughter? How can I, really create something different? And so I want to know, how did you transition from being okay, I'm going to start learning design on YouTube. How did you go from that to realizing that you were good at design, or at least good enough to start charging people and getting clients? Like, how did you start getting your first client?
It was actually really random. I always, like I said, I always did it for my family. My grandmother is actually a business owner. She had a daycare for years, and I would do all these designs for her. And she would pay me. She would give me like $5, $10 for like putting things together for her little posters for the kids and things like that. And the first person that I went to was my dad. I was like, Dad, I want to become a business owner. Like, what can I do? And he was like, honestly, just start. I can't give you any other response. I want to tell you that it takes money and it takes this and it takes that. I want to tell you that because it sounds cute, but it's just starting. So that same day, I made an Instagram page, and I started doing like highlight covers and things like that for free for like bigger companies. I would reach out to them. I was like, hey, this is a cute way to like have a consistent brand. Can I do this for you for free in exchange for a review? And they did. And like based on our interactions, they just really liked me, and they would hire me to do other things. And then that kind of spiraled. And then my mom had people at her job that were like, hey, do you think she could do a website? I'm like, I don't know how to do a website. If you tell them that I don't know how to do a website, but that I will try my best, let them know like I'll do it for whatever, just because I need to do my first website for someone. So they hired me, I did the website, and they actually had me on retainer for a couple of months. And it was crazy because I got pregnant right after that again when my daughter was 6 months. So while the business is like picking up and things like that, like things are going crazy now. I'm like with a newborn, my daughter is literally 15 months. And I'm just like, I'm doing this thing. Like, I'm figuring it out. Money's coming in. And I'm just like, Lord, I don't know what the plan is here, but like, I'm trusting you, and it's scary. I ended up quitting. I used to work for the Department of Education. I had a full-time job, full benefits and everything. And the Lord told me to quit, and I quit pregnant. And then with my baby, and I just did it. And it was so scary. Even talking about it, like literally gives me like, it makes my heart beat faster, because it's like that type of faith it's dangerous to the enemy. It's just really what it is. And it's been exactly that. It's been dangerous for the enemy to have someone like me with the type of faith that I have, just walking around and helping people. And it took me a lot to have the confidence to say that, but it needs to be heard that there's people here, because we get attacked daily. Like I get attacked daily. And people need to know it's not easy, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. So that is what did the thing. It was just God.
When I say, like, I have chills listening to this, because when you say that, like, that type of faith is dangerous to the enemy, but it's also pleasing to God. Like, God's word literally says, like, it's impossible to please God without faith. Like, so the fact that you can say, I had this gift, I had the skill, I had this talent that I, built up by way of learning it, but like I was honest about where I was at. And I think one of the things that God has always dealt with me about, and one of the things he's always told me, is do what you can with what you have. And that's just a very simple way of simplifying stewardship. That's what you did. You said, okay, I know the skill, I know graphics, but I don't know web design, but if y'all want it, I'm going to do my absolute best with what I know. And the fact that started opening up doors. So now you're saying, okay, you have this client that's on retainer, and I want to know about pricing. Like, were people just telling you what their budget was and then you were accepting it? Or were you like coming up with pricing? And like, what was that process of figuring out early on? Like, how much should I really even be charging people if I kind of don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm good enough? Like, what was that journey of pricing?
Ooh, so the first, well, I told you, I actually went also to a business high school. Like the whole 4 years, you had to like learn business. It was so weird. It was like broken up into departments. So I already know a lot of business. So that was like the first thing I did, was I was looking at people that were doing the things that I wanted to do. Because if I wanted to stay where I was at, I would price beginner level. But I felt like with the type of effort that I was giving it, I wanted to like look at what other people were pricing it at and then like put my price at the lowest of theirs, but my skill set right on top of that. I figured out like systems and like all those things like so quick because I was like really studying my competitors and not even competitors, just other people in my industry. I was looking at marketers and other coaches and things like that, just to look at like, what are they even willing to pay? So I would ask them, I would get into their DMs and I would be like, hey, I was just not shy. Something came over me when I became a mom that it was just like, I don't care. Like truly, I just don't care. So the door to be able to make money was there, but I just had to again like see what was fair. So I ended up feeling guilty about it. So I chose like the lowest prices ever. And I would do that. I would ask people, what's your budget? Like I'll make it whatever you want it. And that's what I did for a little bit. And I found myself burnt out, unhappy. And the Lord dealt with me. And that is when my rebrand happened. It was literally the door, like the Lord dealing with me that led up to my rebrand. And now that was in 2020. Now, 2 years later, like I'm known as the rebrand strategist because I never deleted anything that happened throughout that process. So everyone was able to see me literally be dealt with by the Lord and rebrand my business. And that is when he told me to incorporate him in my business, where I'm mentioning that I'm Christian, because up to that point, I was scared. I was scared to go into business and be the Christian, like the weird Christian girl. And he told me, well, if these are the things that you are asking, seeking, knocking for, there are things that we need to do. And that was really scary. So when I first did that live that I did the rebrand, and I mentioned like we are working with only women of faith. We will refund anybody that does anything outside of the scope of things that is appropriate to us and appropriate to the Lord. And the enemy began to attack because I stood on it 10 toes. And when I tell you that I lost half of the things that you mentioned in that bio, I lost it all. The marriage, my mom went back to the Dominican Republic, everything. Because once you go through a process like that, the enemy begins to attack so heavily that you forget that through a rebrand process, it's continuous refinement. It's day by day, minute by minute. And that was something that I felt like, oh, this is a season of refinement, and that's just it. And that's not what it is. And now I'm talking to you from a different perspective of that bio, which is, it's different for me now, but the Lord has been faithful even through getting it all, losing it all, getting it all, losing it all. The Lord is faithful. So I know I ranted a little bit there, but that's where the Holy Spirit was leading me. And yeah, that. That's how that went.
I love your vulnerability. So like, first of all, thank you just for being that vulnerable and just sharing that, like what you lost. And what I was thinking of as you were talking is there's this verse in Malachi chapter 3 that talks about, and I was pulling it up. That's why you probably saw my eyes go left and right, but it literally says, I'm going to read it. Malachi chapter 3, it says, I will send my messenger who will prepare the way before me. Then suddenly the Lord you are seeking will come to his temple. The messenger of the covenant whom you desire will come, says the Lord Almighty. But who can endure the day of his coming? Who can stand when he appears? For he will be like a refiner's fire or a launderer's soap. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the Levites and refine them like gold and silver. Then the Lord will have men who will bring offerings in righteousness, and the offerings of Judah and Jerusalem will be acceptable to the Lord, as in days gone by, as in former years. So when I say that, and that was Malachi chapter 3, verse 1 through 4. And it's so crazy that you mentioned like being refined and like also giving God like a sacrifice that's worthy, right? Like if you're gonna be willing to build a faith-based business and only serve faith-based people, like that's, like you said, that's something big to stand on, but also to stand for what God stands for and to be willing to only market and advance things that are marketing and advancing the kingdom. Like that is really, really huge.
If you've learned anything from this podcast, I know you're going to love the Go Getter Confidential Click at gogettermembership.com. It's a global membership community for Christian women entrepreneurs to connect, build wildly profitable service-based businesses, and grow their faith. So whether you're just getting started with an idea or you already have an established brand and you want to lay the foundation for six-figure income, the Go Getter membership is just what you need. With expert masterclasses, monthly prayer, and tons of courses and downloads, your business will be better because of it. Entrepreneurship isn't easy, but this community will help you go from feeling stuck to clear and motivated. Join today at gogettermembership.com and save 50% off your first 3 months when you use code podcast at checkout. We'll see you inside.
But I want to go into this, this journey of what you said of like losing it all, right? So like, what did that actually look like for you? How did you navigate that space? And like, I'm certain, God, your relationship with God had a huge role in all of that. I just want to hear about this season of refinement. Like, what did that actually look like? What do you mean when you say like, okay, I lost, my marriage, I lost some of the clients? Like, what did that look like for you? And how did you navigate that space?
The business consumed me. I was always talking about the Lord and what he was doing in my life, but I was spending so much time in the business and way less time with him, way less time. And I was blaming it on the business. I'm like, but I'm so busy. I have all these clients. Well, he's like, okay, well, bet I'm going to take it away then, because it's supposed to be you and me. We're the strategists here. We're the designers here. Everything that you have done, like your hands, when you get on that computer, that's me. It's us. We're doing, this is our business and it's his. And when I was trying to make it more mine by taking so much control of just everything and consulting him, like when I was already in the final decision making stages of things, now that I'm hiring, now that I'm, it's bigger now. It went from me to now an agency. We have designers, we have an OBM, we have VAs, like we have people under us. So it was getting serious. Like this, it was getting serious way faster than I was ready for. So it all crashed. We got a divorce. My mom went back. She was losing her vision. So she actually only has one working eye because she has a prosthetic. So she was losing the vision on her only eye. So she wasn't able to help me with the kids. So she had to go back. I had to like be a mom now, like again, because in the business, I stopped being a parent. The kids were home and I was home, but I'm locked up in the office for 12, 15-hour days. The mission was lost in just the business. I just lost it in there. And in 2023, that's what happened. Divorced, my mom went back. I had to like readjust into like, okay, I know I have to like do pick up and drop off from school. I have to like, now it's just, I have to do these things. Like there's no option. So I had to like rebalance what working looks like in real life. And when I came back, I said, hey, I crashed. Like I put too much time into something, it crashed. And now I'm here letting you know that I'm not in the cute phase of this yet. I'm not in the, here's my testimony. I'm in it right now. So like when you guys sing tried by fire, please know that you will be tried by fire. It's not lukewarm water. It's fire that will burn you and that it will hurt. And it'll hurt the things you love. It'll hurt your kids. It'll hurt you, your family, because your purpose is just bigger. It's bigger. It's bigger than any of this. So that's what he told me. He was like, I'm bigger than all these things, and that's where I'm at. I'm just now starting to share like everything that happened in 2023 because it was just I was being dealt with, and I feel like continuous refinement. That's just my word for life. It's just continuous refinement. Right now, I'm gonna choose to be okay. I'm gonna choose to trust the Lord right now. And he says that if I do this, this is what will happen. So I trust that because every time I've done that, it's been a very simple equation. When I try to put myself in it, look what happens. So that is where I'm at now. But honestly, I feel so blessed. Like in all the chaos, I feel blessed.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of God is like, and relationship with God is that even though we may go through the fire, that He's always with us and He allows us to experience blessings even when life isn't perfect. And, I know divorce is an extremely traumatic experience, especially for a family, for the kids. So definitely praying for you. And I know that, God is a restorer. And whenever he refines something or strips things away or prunes things, it's like it's literally only for the better. And so that's the thing that encourages me. And for all of those who are listening, I think what's really important to take note of here is that when you're running a business, life does not stop. Like life continues. The enemy is going to be more upset. Like Erica said earlier, like your faith is literally dangerous to the enemy and like your belief, but like you also walking in what God has for you is dangerous to the enemy. And he mad, like he big mad. And so, I really appreciate you just sharing all that vulnerability. I think one of the things I would love to know about your journey as you were kind of building to that point of, being able to build a six-figure business, like how did you go from, because you were talking at first about like that guilt of like, charging a certain price point, like how did you go from like charging on the low end to deciding like, okay, I'm going to actually charge more, right? Like you did the whole rebrand, but then how did you decide to charge more? And then like, how did you, like, what were you selling to get you to the six-figure mark?
For me, it had a lot to do with worth because I got to a point where people really trusted me pretty quickly. I don't want to say quickly, but to me, it happened really fast. And it was because I was busy, with the kids and everything. Everything just happened really fast. But it's been about 5 years now. And when I was charging, let's say, like $150 for a brand identity. So, like logos, a main logo, an alternative logo, a submark, a mood board, typography, color selection. I was charging like $150 for that. But what was happening was I wanted to give them advice. And I felt like I couldn't because they were just giving me inspiration. But it felt wrong. It felt like this should be a collaborative effort. And I feel like there should be strategy to this. Like you're just sending me a picture telling me to do the same thing. And it's like, this doesn't feel right. So I started doing research on like what that was. I didn't even know what brand strategy was. Like I learned about it, of course, in school, you learned about that, but like I didn't know there were brand strategists, like people that get that stuff together. So I started doing research. And when I was in the process of a rebrand, I was like, well, Lord, these are my goals, but I'm scared to do this. He was like, well, that's what we need to get to that goal. That's what we need to do. You need to push yourself and I will be there. And he would instruct me to do all those scary things like going live and putting myself out there. No, go to that event, take a weekend and go to that live event and just buy yourself a ticket and just go, like, just do it. Put yourself in the room. And when you get to the room, introduce yourself. And I was like, I'm scared. But like when you have kids, like scared is just not an option. And I also felt like I was in sin, like not being scared when I knew that all of this started from him. So I just ran with that. And I started doing research, market research, pricing. I started pricing kind of like at the medium for it. And when I tell you people didn't even care, I was selling more. That same $150 package, I started selling it for $1,500 with including brand strategy, where I would take my time and literally, let's figure out your time. We would sit on a call for like hours figuring out like, okay, but like, who is this person? Like, let's not make somebody up. Like, let's actually make it a real person. Like, let's picture what she looks like. Why are you different in this industry? Like, and in that, I found my unique little lane in this little rebrand corner of the world. And that made me six figures. People trusted me. And at that point, I was like practicing doing websites all the time. Like I would just be like, tell my parents, like, hey, give me a website like that you guys want to start. My brother has an Airbnb business and he was like renting out the room outside of Airbnb. So he's like, create me a website. I was like, okay, bet. And then just like all the clients that I worked on in the beginning stages, I reached back out to all those people. I sent them DMs again, like, hey, I learned this new skill. If you trust me, like I'll do it at this beta price. And like, I was just doing the thing, like literally. And it was nothing but the Lord just telling me to do it and me doing it. A lot of the times we spend so much time figuring out how and everything, but it's like going back to like what my dad said, just start, just do it.
Come on. Like
that's what the Lord requires.
It's the starting, but the thing is, I love, like, there's so many nuggets in what you just said. First of all, you reached back out to people that you had worked with in the past, but then you said, so you made six figures off of a $1,500 offer. So that was your only offer at the time. Y'all, literally $1,500 offer. She was doing the same thing she was doing for $150 for 10 times the price, and people were happily paying it. And I'm sure you were feeling a lot more fulfilled. But then you said you reached back out to people that you had worked with. And I think a lot of times people skip over reaching out to people who've already worked with them. It's like, that's the easiest money. They already trust you. They already know that, you're good at what you do. Why not just reach out to them again? And so I love that you followed back up with them. And then, so I know you said like with the website, you were kind of like, all right, here's the beta price for that. What was like your beta pricing that you started out with, like for websites? And then like, let's talk about what you're charging now. Okay. Like how much are you charging now for like a website or full design type of thing?
To be honest, I'm able to charge at a little bit higher, of course, because we've grown and we've learned so much. It's been now 3 years since that rebrand. So we've scaled since then. But honestly, we don't have any packages that are more than $2,800 right now. And that $2,800 package includes everything from the strategy to the website, the entire thing. And the reason why that is because now I'm able to focus on the parts in that process that I love, because we have the designer. We have like other people that can do the things that maybe like social media templates, social media kits that's also included in those packages. They can do that. And we can focus on our zone of genius and focus really on like helping our clients to realize that there is personal refinement that needs to happen during the process of your brand being refined, because you need to show up differently in order for that to do something. In order for that to be a different result, you have to show up differently. So we spend time just talking to them about what does that look like? Getting the confidence. Go live with somebody else who's scared. Everybody's always scared. So it's like, trust in the Lord. You have this idea. And not only that, but he provided you with people that are giving you this advice. So do it. And that's our packages. We still have that $1,500 package. It's now actually $950 because I can charge a little bit less. And it's just amazing. I love that I can help my target audience, and I didn't have to go so far up in my prices where now I'm not even working with the working mom, the girl that I want to help her get out of that. Like if that's what she desires, I want to help her turn that side hustle to an actual brand, because that's what I did. And that's like my dream person. And that's who I work with all the time. So that's been the key, is like staying where I can serve and cause the most impact through the Lord.
Yeah, I think all of this is so, so good. And, I love that the conversation is central to who your audience is and being able to serve your particular audience. And, one of the things that you said that I feel like is a really major gem, because I feel like everybody needs this if they're trying to build to a six-figure business or scale their business from six figures and beyond, is really having a team. Like, so you were talking about you're operating in your zone of genius. You're operating and doing only the things you love. Talk to me about the process of like hiring people. Like, what was the journey of like being like, okay, wait, I actually need help. Let me find the help, trust the help, and pay them. And, like integrate them into my business so that I can grow and, be better in business.
That was actually a really interesting process. And again, just goes to show another example of like the enemy is just going to keep working, right? Throughout the process of me trying to find people at the beginning, I was just like, I'm overwhelmed and I can't like scale this in a way where I'm present as a mom, I'm present as a wife at the time. I'm doing this and I'm doing that and like still juggling how I got to six figures in the first place. I have to do this in a smarter way. So I was like, okay, if I find somebody that I can pay X amount, I'll make sure I have them in a directory. So if I have clients that can't work with me for my budget, I have people that I can recommend them out to, but that they also work inside of my business for my clients. That was like what I was thinking about. So I found somebody and that ended up turning sour. And then what I mean by that is like, when you hire people, not consulting the Lord, again, this is why he dealt with me in 2023. Things happened. I ended up getting stolen from. It was just a lot going on. But that is what happens. Again, take the lesson from me. Don't do it yourself. Consult the Lord, even in these things. He cares about who's being hired. He cares about who the contractor is. He cares about who the designer is. He cares about who's putting hands on this precious thing that he knows is being so fruitful. It's a serious matter and it should be treated as such. And I wasn't treating it as such. So that is how I pretty much got to a place where I was like, okay, I need to take this. I need to take into account. And now that I'm coming out of 2023 and I'm recovering from all of the things that happened, I'm moment by moment refinement. He has been answering. We have a designer that we absolutely love. We actually mentored that designer years ago and they were doing great. They wanted to come work for a company for more consistent income. Perfect. I had a client that she was trying out OBM services a year or two ago. And then now we reconnected and she's like this amazing OBM. I was like, come on, I'll hire you. Like, I know I'll see the return. And I'm seeing the return. And he's just resolving all these problems. When you give it to him, he just resolves them. If I'm just keeping it simple, he just resolves them. Look at all the trouble that I went through trying to handle it on my own when I could have just simply been like, Lord, I don't know how to do this. Can you do it for me? And he literally just sent two people to my door to be like, literally in my DMs, like, hey, I was just wondering if you needed blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, you weren't just wondering. The Lord literally sent you here. But yeah, so now that's what it is. And it's just amazing just being in that space again where it's like, I don't carry the weight of like doing all of this on my own.
I love this so much. Like, man, because I think so many of us can get so caught up in like, what is my business strategy? What is my hiring strategy? How am I going to find the right people? And it's like, God, like you said, will literally send you like, and this is confirmation for me because like, I'm in a season of expansion with my business, with my brand, with all the things that I want to do. I'm like, Lord, I want to do it. And, like you said before, you're like, just do it. But it's like, yeah, you just do it, but you need people to just do it. And so one of my prayers before the Lord has been like, Lord, there's specific roles I'm looking to hire for. And when you're running a faith-based business, you got to have people that align with the vision that God has given you and that honor God and honor the vision that God has given you. So for me, like even just having this conversation with you today has been like, okay, God, I know you hear my prayers. I know you've provided people for me in the past that were incredible, and you will continue to provide for me. incredible people, even as I'm building and scaling. So thank you for that. Now we're coming to the final minutes of the podcast. So I'm going to ask two final questions. The first one is kind of lightning round, but what are the top three things you think every single business owner who's trying to get to six figures needs in their business?
You need a brand strategy. And if you can't do the whole brand strategy, at the very least, know who your target audience is. If you guys, when I share my social medias, if you guys find my social media, you can DM me the word target and it'll automatically send you a free workbook that'll walk you through exactly how to figure out who this person is, how to find them in real life on their internet, not just like be guessing who they are. You need to know who that person is. You really need to understand what makes you different. You need to find your space. What is it that really sets you apart within your marketplace? What is it that's different about you? What makes you the most obvious option to solve the problems that your target audience is having? And then from there, I would create a brand identity that is timeless. And the reason why I say that, and you can do this with anybody. It doesn't have to be me as a designer. It can literally be any designer, but you have to pick something that you're not going to continuously change, because that breaks brand recognition. You don't want to keep rebranding. Rebrand the right way, one time, refresh if you have to as the years go on, the little things, but keep that same identity, that same feel, because that is your business fingerprint. If you're thinking about something that identifies you in this digital space or in e-commerce or in any way, it's, I remember that color. I know that's Candace. I know that pink anywhere. When I'm scrolling, I may not even see her name, but when I see certain colors, I know it's her. You just know, because brand recognition. So I'm going to say those are the top three things, because if you have those three things, now you can go into marketing and be like, okay, I want to run this ad. I know who it's for. I have an identity, and I know how what I have solves a problem for that person. So I can sell this now, because I'm offering a solution, and I'm creating a space where I'm providing visuals to capture their attention, to keep them here. Because I made these visuals according to the brand strategy, not according to what I felt was cute, what I think is cute, because I saw the font and I think the font is cute, or because I want pink, because I like pink. It has to make sense. So that's what the brand strategy is for. So if I had to break it up into those three things, it would be understand your target audience and take your time to understand what sets you apart. And from there, create visuals that match the strategy.
I love this question so much, because it really lends to your expertise. You let me break it down for y'all. Listen. So one other thing that I love to ask everyone who comes on the Go Getter podcast is, what do you tell the woman who's afraid of going after her next big thing?
Start. I'm going to tell you the same thing my dad told me. Just start. If you don't start, it just stays in your brain, and that's not honoring to the Lord. That you're in sin, if I'm being honest. If the Lord tells you to do something and you decide that by your free will you're not going to do it, that is you being in sin. I'm not telling you that you're not going to be uncomfortable, that it's not going to cause some anxiety to do some of these things. That's not going to take a little bit of stretching of who you are, some adjustment of how you show up. But you have to start, because if he instructed you and you know it's an instruction of the Lord, then you are in sin. And I'm telling you that out of love, from somebody that's just coming out of a season of being in sin. That's what I'll say.
Girl, the way you just got us together, okay? Not you moving in fear and not doing what God told you to do is a sin. Oh my goodness. Listen, so y'all, if God has told you to do something, do it. Start, don't overthink it, okay? So Erica, tell us how we can stay connected with you moving forward. And I know you mentioned the amazing resource. You can drop that again. We would love to stay connected with you after today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. But you can stay in touch with me at Her Timeless Brand on Instagram or on any social media platforms. You can visit our website at hertimeisbrand.com, but send me a DM. I'm a voice note queen. I'll say that. I'd be so busy. I'm like, what's up, girl? Because it's just easier. So as long as you're okay with that, please don't feel the pressure to respond back with a voice note, but that'll be likely what you get from me. But I'm pretty much an open book. Now I'm sharing a lot of these things on social media and letting people know, like, I'm human, things happen, and it's just, what do you do? And when things are in turmoil, are you in yes with the Lord, or are you in yes with the turmoil? Because you can only be on one side or the other. So I've just chosen to be in turmoil with the Lord, and he's resolving every single stone that's being thrown at me. So I'm winning, even if it doesn't look like that to the world, but it's not the world that matters. So we're winning, period.
Girl, you just dropped bars. Like what? Like just got us together. I'm in turmoil with the Lord. Okay. So I love that, love that, love that so much. This has been so incredible, Erica. You have no idea how much this has blessed me. I know it's going to bless so many other women who are going to listen to this podcast or watch it even on YouTube. And I'm just really incredibly grateful to you for showing up with your vulnerability and just being all that you are, even in the marketplace. So I know there was so much to be learned from this episode. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Of course. So y'all, when I say this episode has been so incredible, it has blessed me personally. I know you guys learned a lot just from listening to Erica's story. So make sure you guys connect with her online, of course. And I also want to make sure that you are staying connected with us online as well. But we always are dropping new episodes of the Go Getter podcast. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. We will see you on the next episode of the Go Getter podcast. All right, deuces.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Go Getter podcast. If you love this conversation, you're going to love the panels and workshops that are at Go Getter Conference. It's our premier event of the year, and it happens annually. It's going to help you market and monetize your God-given ideas and connect with women from across the globe. Head over to gogetterconference.com to check it out right now. And just for staying until the end of this episode, we have a special gift for you, the Go Getter Plan and Profit Workbook. This workbook is going to help you plan your income for the year. So head to gogetterpodcast.com/plan and profit to get your copy. And don't forget to drop a 5-star review if you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you on the next episode of the Go Getter Podcast.